Hey Wargamers, welcome to another Patreon patron army list review. If you're not familiar with this format, basically it's something that I do for my patrons over on Patreon. They send me army lists and then I review and revise them. So we'll go over the initial list. I will talk about the things I like, the things I don't like about it, things I think work well and things I don't think work well. And then we'll go and provide a revised list that I think addresses at least some of those concerns. One of the key things here, though, too, is that I'm trying to keep it in the spirit of the original list, try to keep it in the wishes, kind of the play style of the creator. And so, I don't just come up with a cookie cutter list at the end. So today we have a new patron. We have a patron who is just getting into Tau, and he is, primarily getting into it because he loves the models. And there are some models that he likes and some models that he doesn't like. Notably, some of the models that he doesn't like are things like Riptides and Hammerheads. That limits some of the offensive capability that we can produce into this list. Some of the competitiveness potentially, and so we really kind of have to think outside the box in some of those regards. But there are other tools that we have that will really work with what we have access to based on those outlines. So, all right, let's get into the list. It's a 2-detachment list. The first is a Cadre Fireblade and an Ethereal in the HQ slot. The Ethereal has a hover drone. So Fireblade's fantastic choice. Always go with a Fireblade if you're taking any number of Fire Warriors. An Ethereal also a solid choice. Although if I had to choose one, I would go with the Fireblade, but we don't. So the Ethereal can work out nicely here. For troops, we have 3 8-man units of Strike Team Fire Warriors. Each of the Shazwi have a marker light. I will point out that the Shazwi are picked out here, which is fantastic. Sometimes you don't always see that right away when people are getting into an army. They don't necessarily remember to pick out the sergeant character. So fantastic that that's there. Marker lights are good on the Shazwi, particularly if you are running Pathfinders as your marker light source. I like having the Shazwi there to kind of disperse the marker lights, and that way they are harder to remove from the army. If you have just a unit of Pathfinders, they're easily removed, and then you're out of marker lights. But if you have Pathfinders plus marker lights in your Fire Warrior squads, they have to get through a lot more bodies to get rid of those marker lights. So that's a valuable thing there. And once we get deeper in the list, well, actually this deep into the list, we'll talk about that a little bit more. So in the elites, we have 3 Firesight Marksmen. Fantastic choice. These are really your staple unit for marker light support in the current version of the army. So marker lights on Firesight Marksmen are fantastic because they are characters and they have an improved ballistic skill. So that's the way to go here. But because we're not using Pathfinders primarily as our marker light source, those marker lights on the Fire Warriors are less necessary, and so we can play around with those points a little bit there too. Moving on to fast attack, we have a Tetra, or 2 Tetras. These guys are tempting because of their high intensity marker light, but I did a review about them before the Codex came out, and I think that review still pretty much stands. The only thing I would change about that review is that if you are going to be taking Tetras, I would probably take them as Sakia, because of the ability to reroll. But overall, I think Tetras are a cool model, but not something that we really would want to invest points in or try to make work. They're too weak, and they are not reliable in terms of marker light support. So I would get rid of those. And then we have the TX-42 Piranha. So a Piranha with 2 rail rifles. And I like this. I think it's a really cool model, and I think there are some fun things you can do with Piranhas. I don't think taking a TX-42 necessarily gives you that much more of a benefit in doing those things. So having a Piranha is good because it can kind of be a bully unit. It can kind of go tie up some things. It has a fair number of wounds. The TX-42 is a little bit better at that. But overall, we're paying 100 points, 104 points for 2 rail rifles, and that's pretty steep. I think if I was going to be looking for a rail rifle platform, I would be taking them in a Pathfinder unit, even though Pathfinders are squishy. They're more points efficient than taking a Piranha. So that would be the recommendation there if we were looking to maintain the rail rifle source. But again, this is just 2 rail rifles in a whole army. They're not really going to make that big of a difference. And this is something that I try to maintain throughout my army construction philosophy or whatever, is that having one of a weapon is not really going to make that big of a difference, because the things you want to use it against are probably going to make it through, unless this is some super amazing weapon, like we see in some super heavies and stuff like that. But it's, 2 rail rifles are really just a drop in the bucket in terms of what we really need for when we're targeting that type of enemy. So if we're looking at like heavy infantry, are really what rail rifles are good at. So we want to kind of build a list that is going to be able to take care of that in a more comprehensive way, and not necessarily have these like sprinkles of different weapon types here and there. All right. So I like the Piranha, but it's generally probably an inefficient choice. In the heavy support area, we have 9 marker drones. Oofta. So marker drones are cool. And if you're going to bring them, I think taking them as Tau Sept is really the way to go, because you have access to the focus fire stratagem. But I would say that 9 is a very large unit. They don't have very high leadership. They have leadership 6. Now, having the Ethereal does help with that. The Ethereal is probably not going to be too far away from the sniper drone, so that does alleviate a lot of the leadership concern there. But overall, sniper drones are pretty inconsistent in their damage output, and are something that can be useful in certain compositions, but are not necessarily something that's an auto include. Moving on to the next detachment, it's another battalion led by another Fireblade and a commander in a Coldstar battlesuit. This commander is the Warlord, and it has an advanced targeting system, so it gives -1 AP, an airburst fragmentation projector, which is turned into a supernova launcher. Good choice. Supernova launcher is certainly one of the better signature systems that are in the Codex, and I particularly enjoy bringing a commander with one of those. It has a multi-tracker, which it will almost always get a benefit from if it shoots at a sufficiently large unit, and a shield generator. So yeah, I think the idea here is that you have kind of maybe a little bit of a problem solver unit here. He's going to be able to move across the board very quickly, and that supernova launcher is going to be very effective at a variety of targets, but I think we are focusing a little bit too much on trying to boost up that supernova launcher and not necessarily on maximizing the overall damage output of the commander. It is almost always better to take more weapons than fewer weapons and support systems, because just in this case here, I think if we get rid of the advanced targeting system, yes, we are giving up an additional AP value, but we would be getting access to a whole other weapon. So the proportional change in output is much higher when you take a new weapon as opposed to trying to improve an existing weapon with a support system. So here I would shy away from the advanced targeting system, the multi-tracker, and the shield generator. Sometimes people take the shield generator just because they're a little nervous about having the Coldstar just get, shot right away. And the solution to that is a little bit of restraint. And it's very hard with the Coldstar. He has that amazing movement characteristic, being able to advance up to 40 inches total. And that is very tempting to have him zip across the board, turn 1, and shoot something and be done. But that's almost a guaranteed way for him to die in that same turn. The better strategy is for him to kind of hang out with your army on turn 1. He can call Kao Yun, or he can boost some of your battlesuit units using command and control node or some of the other stratagems. He has a lot he can do turn 1, even though he's not going to be able to shoot, and particularly because he's not going to be able to shoot, it's going to be the best time to do those things. So I would actually get rid of all these support systems and load him up to the teeth with guns, and make sure that he can really pull his weight, because again, the commander is one of the few units that we have that have the 2-up ballistic skill, and we really want to maximize that. So yes, make him shooty as possible. Being the warlord is also risky because of what we just talked about. If he's going to run across the board, which he will do at some point, he's at an increased risk of dying. And so we want to put our warlord on a character that is less likely to be picked out right away. We have another 3 units of 8 fire warriors. Fantastic. Fire warriors are actually a very good unit in a lot of ways, especially when combined with fire blades and some of their warlord traits. So you can do quite a lot of damage with fire warriors, and I think bringing a healthy amount of them is requisite for Taulas today. In elites, we have a unit of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stealth suits. The Shazray has an advanced targeting system, a fusion blaster, a marker light, target lock. So, yes. The inclusion of the advanced targeting system here is fine. The fusion blaster doesn't really need it, so I think you could probably save the points there. And then the marker light and target lock on him as well. We have a lot of marker light sources already, so I would shy away from that. I think we'd almost always want to be able to use his fusion blaster, and yeah, so I would shy away from that as well. I think if we're going to be bringing the fusion blaster, that makes a lot of the other things either unnecessary or tempting for you to use them in a way that would reduce the efficiency or effectiveness of the unit. We also have a Ghost Kill with 2 fusion blasters and a fusion collider. His support systems are a shield generator and advanced targeting system. So again, the advanced targeting system is a little redundant with the fusion loadout. It's not necessary. So, and additionally, the fusion loadout is pretty tricky with the Ghost Kill just because he does he does best when he's far away from units, and fusion is the opposite, does best when it's close by units, a targeted unit. So I generally recommend taking Cyclic Ion Blasters on this guy. If you are taking Cyclic Ion Blaster, or excuse me, not Cyclic Ion Blaster, Cyclic Ion Raker, Ion Raker, if you take that, the advanced targeting system is more beneficial. And then also, if you take 2 burst cannons with that advanced targeting system, suddenly you have quite a nice little package at the 18-inch range. So, yes. I think that would probably be the way to go there. Shield Generator is a good choice as well, because he's really, if an enemy unit actually hits him, having that Shield Generator is going to be very beneficial. And then we wrap it up with a Barracuda, 2 Cyclic Ion Blasters, 2 Missile Pods, which are stock, and then the Swift Strike Railgun. So, this is a fine loadout. The Barracuda really suffers in this edition in comparison to things like Riptides and Hammerheads and even the Tiger Shark. The Tiger Shark is generally going to be the better choice if you're going to be bringing one of the flyers. And so I would probably go that direction. I know that the original idea was to take some of these larger units, but there wasn't quite enough room. Right now we're sitting at 1787, so there's a little bit of wiggle room. And then with some of the changes, I think we can squeeze a Tiger Shark in. So that's what we'll be looking to do in the revision. All right, here we are in the revised list. You will notice that I have now specified that the Sept choice is Tau Sept. I think Tau Sept is certainly one of the strongest options that you have, along with Borkan, and yes, VR Law is kind of my go-to for certain situations, but Tau Sept is a great offensively minded Sept tenet, and it is one of the best ones that you can use to start learning the army. So I think that is certainly the way to go here, especially considering the loadout that we have. We are at 1848 points. And I've maintained the overall structure, and it kept a lot of the things the same, but dropping a few of the more odds and ends units that we were seeing in the original list. So in HQ, again, we have that Fireblade. Now he is our Warlord, and I gave him the Through Unity Devastation Warlord trait. This is going to allow friendly units within 6 inches to add an additional AP to their shots when they wound on a 6, when they are firing at a target that has been designated by the Fireblade. So especially with the number of Fire Warriors that we have, as long as you keep one representative guy within 6 inches of the Fireblade, that can be massive. That can be a lot of improved shots and a huge boost to their overall damage output. So fantastic Warlord trait, and we have it on a Fireblade here who's going to synergize already with the strike teams, so we're off to a good start. The Ethereal is still here. I took away his hover drone because this army is not super mobile. He does not necessarily need to be on a hover drone. And so just to save a few points, I took that away. But there are plenty of places that we could do some minor adjustments to bring it back if that was desirable. I added a third HQ choice to this detachment, and it's because we were kind of lacking a lot of punching power for higher toughness, lower armor save value or units. So 4 Fusion Blasters on a Coldstar, I think, is a great way to go, and we have another one of those here. So he's going to do some heavy lifting for us. It is one of the units that was already in the list, so hopefully it is one of the ones that is, a cool model to you. But yeah, I think he's going to do a lot of good work for you. In troops, we have 3 strike teams still, but I've reduced them down to 5-man units, just to free up some points for some other stuff. Lower down in the list, we have those 3 Fireside Marksmen. They're still here because they're still awesome. In the next detachment, again, this is a Tau Sept detachment. That Fireblade is still here. The commander is still here, but he's no longer a warlord, and instead of having the support systems, I have 3 Fusion Blasters. So he too is going to do quite a lot of work for us. In the troops choice, we have 3 10-man units of Fire Warriors, so we took some of those Fire Warriors from the other units and put them in here. The reason for that is not only to kind of wiggle around with the points a little bit, but also it's a lot easier to keep 3 10-man units within 6 inches of a Fireblade than it is to keep 6 8-man units, I think. You just have to have that one guy within. So this kind of makes that positioning a little bit easier to have the larger units. And then because you do have the Ethereal, we're not super concerned about a leadership, so this will be fine. And then again, we have those 3 previous Fire Warrior units that can run around and grab objectives, that sort of thing. So they don't necessarily have to be tied to the Fireblade. So we're kind of consolidating our fire base, giving people designated roles and making the overall choices that we have to face when deploying and maneuvering units a little bit easier, because now we know, like, the big units, they are going to be our gun line, the little units are going to be our runners, and we don't have any confusion with that. For the elite slot, we now have 2 units of stealth suits. I think stealth suits are a fantastic unit for a variety of reasons, but those reasons all have to do with their deployment and kind of the strategy around them, and less so with their offensive output. Yes, they can put out a lot of firepower in terms of number of shots, but it's not it's not an insane amount for the price that you pay for them. What really makes them special is their -1 to hit, which hopefully stays the same in Chapter Approved, and their overall durability and mobility, especially if you were to take them with some of the other seps, like, again, Vera Law would be a fantastic set for stealth suits. They can be really fast. They can be fast here too, but they're going to do it at a little bit of a penalty to their shooting. And so, yeah, basically these guys are here to be your board control unit and to kind of give your opponent a hard time. We include Fusion Blasters here because, again, that was something that we were lacking in the original list, was a healthy amount of fusion or high AP weaponry. So we threw that in here. And then the Ghost Keel, as discussed, we reoriented that to be the Cyclic Ion Raker instead of the Fusion Blaster, and changed the Fusion Blasters to burst cannons. So we're going with the Ion kind of volume of fire, a little bit more middle of the road loadout here. But the advanced targeting system and shield generator are intact. And then finally, instead of the Barracuda, we have upgraded to a Tiger Shark fighter bomber. Tiger Shark fighter bombers are super cool. They used to be a lot cooler, but they are still, they still have a place. So we have 2 cyclic ion blasters here, 2 Sky Spear missile racks, which are essentially heavy burst can shots. So, we retain some of that old heavy burst can functionality in the Sky Spear missile rack. Swift Strike railgun, because we were, that was kind of the, designation for that original Barracuda. I wanted to maintain that. So we stuck with the Swift Strike railgun. I think, it's a fine choice, especially now after the FAQ. It's not terribly different from the heavy burst can. So yeah, the Swift Strike railgun is cool and will give you some nice output there. 2 missile pods as our stock, and then six seeker missiles. This was something that was missing from the Barracuda, were the seeker missiles, but seeker missiles are fantastic, and especially on a platform that has as good of a ballistic skill as a Tiger Shark does, we want to load up on those. So 6 seeker missiles here, absolutely must take the seeker missiles. And that will work out really well. So overall, I mean, this isn't the list that I would probably make if I were to be going to a GT, but I think this is a super fun list, both in terms of the types of models that are there. I love all these models. They're all fantastic models. And well, maybe not the Marksman. The Marksman could be better. They're a little dated. But overall, very nice looking army. It's going to be fun. It's going to allow you to learn a lot about how the army works and the synergies, strengths, and weaknesses. So I think it's a fantastic learning army. And, above all else, it uses units that are exciting to the player. And that is what is most important. If we play with net lists that we're not excited about, that's not going to make the hobby very fun, and that's not going to make the hobby last very long. So this list, I think, is going to be awesome in terms of learning and having fun. I think it does actually do a fairly good job dealing with armor. I don't know how well it would do against a full knight list, but it could certainly deal with having 1 knight on the table, 2 knights on the table, probably 2, would be fine. We have the Tiger Shark. We have 2 fusion Coldstars. Plus we have a million shots from Fire Warriors, and that's kind of the key here. That's why we're going with the Tau Sept, is because Tau Sept has that focus fire stratagem, which means once a unit has been wounded, we can add 1 to all of our wounds. Wound rolls against that target, and yeah, it's very, very easy to overwhelm any unit with the number of Fire Warrior pulse shots that we have, along with the number of burst cannon shots that we have and everything else. So that stratagem is costly, but it will really leverage the volume of fire that we have here, combined with some of the select high firepower options that we have. So I think using that stratagem is going to make this actually fairly effective at dealing with more durable units. And then, of course, because of that volume of fire, we're not going to have any problems with dealing with hordes. So this list, I think, is probably going to do fairly well. I like it. And it's notably a list that has 0 Riptides in it. That's not something you're going to see a whole lot, at least before the new chapter approved. So currently, you almost always see at least 1, if not 3 Riptides in a list. So I'm excited to see how this list plays out. So I would love to hear how it goes. But yeah, I think it's going to do fairly well. I think the biggest issue with it is dealing with maybe a little bit of maneuverability, objective capping, that sort of thing, and dealing with some of those like mid durability units, or dealing with a full knight list, I think will be hard as well. So that's the list. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Again, both lists are going to be provided in a link in the description, link over to the Invasive Wargaming Facebook page, so you can check out both lists there. And yeah, thanks for watching, and as always, happy wargaming. Hey everyone, this video was made possible by my supporters over on Patreon. If you enjoyed this video, consider joining our community over there. Special thanks to Errant Fox, Max Harrison, No Excuses Panda, Jared Egler, Nick Steele, Tao Oswald, Brian Mann, Jake Johnson, Scott J. Smith, Stephen Cohen, Eric Jackson, Andy M. Young, Benjamin, Giovanni DiMaggio, Julian Peck, Peter Benjamin Parker, RP, Timothy K. Piney, and Yuhai Penguin.